Tuesday, the 14th day of March, and we're only 2 sleeps away from the season opener at the MCG. 90,000 plus anticipated for Richmond and Carlton. The following night, it'll be Collingwood and Geelong, and then a whole host of games over the weekend. We've already spoken about the evenness of this opening round. Trying to pick your surefire winner is an absolute nightmare. There's been a lot spoken in the lead up to this round of footy. And if it hasn't been spoken about, we're about to talk about it for the next hour or two. Nathan Buckley's wandered into the studio as he does regularly on a Tuesday, but given that he was off yesterday, Monday, he joins us today. G'day, Bucks.
G'day, Gaz. How are you, Tim?
Haven't seen you for
Good morning, Bucks.
What so?
5 hours.
Oh,
I know, it's been a while.
Yeah.
You two should be joined at the brain now after spending all that time together on the couch last night.
Does that mean we should think alike?
Well, maybe. It's a bit like the Stockholm Syndrome. You've heard of that, haven't you?
I have,
Yeah.
and I was held hostage here on Monday mornings last year by Gaz, and I've developed a fondness for him.
It's not hard. It's not hard.
Not much sincerity in that.
No, there's a lot of sincerity in
That
that.
wasn't the cricket commentators. It was in-studio Fox commentators just crossing to see what was happening in the game.
Really?
Is that right? No.
That's why it wasn't exciting.
I'm getting a blank look from our boys out there. Anyway, we'll find out. There's a few people saying that they switched the ball during a break in the Aussie game. So
I think I'm going to start with a question that neither of you asked or answered last night.
Before you do, this is totally interactive. So this is your chance to bring up some stuff that maybe you haven't heard talk about, or if you have, you can ask it again. But this is what we're doing now. We are 2 days out from the game. Tim and I haven't been real footy heavy in the lead up to the first round, but this week we certainly will. We turn our mind to it. So there was all the footy shows were back last night. 360, Couch, Classified, they were all on. So got lots to talk about.
I've got an example of something that the listeners might be considering. So we've spoken about the 4 tall forward setup of Bulldogs ad infinitum the last 6 weeks, I reckon.
Yep.
What if they just put one of those blokes on the bench?
That's what they're going to do.
Yeah. So then we've been talking about four tall forwards. They can go to the fact if you pick 4 in your 22, you can go 4 tall forwards, or you can go 3, or you can go 2.
We'll go none and trick them. Why don't you trick Melbourne and go none?
It gives you a different look at different times, and you can manipulate your forward line and challenge the opposition. So I think that's probably more likely what we're going to see.
Yeah, I think those that have been watching them play say that most of the time there's only 3 of the tools on the ground in the forward line at any one time.
Yep.
Is it an obvious thing to say that those teams that have the greatest depth are going to be more advantaged now by the new interchange rule?
In a game, it should even it up. Like the idea of having the substitute to go to should even it up because of the stats of what happens when it goes to the difference in, say, it's 2 rotators instead of 4. So in the end, the depth will be tested on a day, but I don't think the substitute rule itself is going to advantage people or teams with deeper lists
as much as people think it might.
Not across the season. In a game, it could in fact impact on that because your 23rd might still be a gun player, a younger list like a North Melbourne. They might be a young player who's actually coming through. But I think that's where the benefit is.
Yep.
Actually having a younger player there, introducing him to the game and to the level and getting him used to the level, especially if you don't have the fitness to run out 4 quarters. It's actually a really good idea to have your younger players come through that position.
I want to ask you a question. There have been 4 new coaches come into the game, okay? So how long is it before we see a distinct new style of the way these coaches want their team to play? Do you think is it enough time already has elapsed over the summer months for them to implement the new style of play?
I think there's an irony with this. I think that the most evident style will come from North Melbourne. And I think GWS. So as opposed to an Essendon or a St Kilda.
Okay, so you say North Melbourne because why?
Because I think they're younger and you can teach a young
more malleable.
It's harder, yeah. You don't have
special comments.
You don't have to unlearn the things that the more that are more mature list. And I'm not saying Essendon and St Kilda aren't over the top mature, but they'll have to unlearn some of the stuff that they've been taught to be taught it by either Ross Lyon or Brad Scott. I think the North Melbourne group will be younger and more malleable.
Yep.
That's a great word, pliable. I think the GWS, I think the GWS team will be stimulated by a totally different game plan that Adam Kingsley will bring, and we expect it to be like
those guys have
Richmond.
been playing a different way for a long time, though. Too most of those
There's
Giants.
a bit of, unlearning to do there, but I think that North Melbourne and GWS's style will be more evident, and they're probably less hobbled with injuries as well.
Okay, so as a fan, you've got, say, fans listening to this that barrack for, say, North Melbourne or St Kilda or Essendon or one of those teams. If it's not evident, how much time do you think you should give a coach? I mean, when is it too impatient, too early to go, oh, we've got a new coach, but nothing looks like it's changed at all?
I'm going to answer your question with a question,
right.
Tim. Does Adam Kingsley get more or less time than Alistair Clarkson?
Yeah, I think that, there's an expectation that Clarkson will come, and because he's been a great coach and a premiership coach, then he'll be able to have an immediate influence on that group of players. But then I think you've got to temper that with the talent that he's also got at his disposal to be able to play a certain way.
I think what you'll see, I'm thinking about Clarko, right? I don't really know Adam Kingsley's coaching. I'm looking forward to seeing it unfold, and I think they can have impacts. If you're a North Melbourne fan, first halves of games, I expect them to be really competitive, right? That's the way I see it, because his teachings and the way he coaches are very specific and demanding. And I saw a little bit of the practice match, from the TV, albeit
the Richmond one or the Dogs one.
Yeah, it was the Dogs.
Against the Dogs.
Yeah. It looked like structurally I could see what he was trying to do in terms of defending, pushing, pressing up and the cluster, little bits of the cluster.
And the run and gun stuff.
Well, less about that, more about the defensive stuff, right? So I'm watching that and I'm going, okay, this looks pretty good. They're in position and, they were hanging in and then, to be fair, I had to go and call my game. But I did then look at the way the game unfolded, and as the longer the game went, the more it blew out in the end. And that happens because you're not...
They're younger.
That's right.
Less experienced.
You go back to Hawthorn when he tried to implement this at Hawthorn. It was, it's exciting. They do it, and then after a while they go, oh no, I'm going to revert back.
He
so
had a 5-win season in his first year. We've got to remember that.
That's right. So then he has to go, no, I don't really care about the win loss because I'm believing in this. Yeah. So trust in me. And in the end, Hawthorn say, okay, I'm going to stick with it. I'll stick with it halfway through the second quarter. Last time I went to self-preservation mode and thought, no, I'm going to look after my man as opposed to looking after the space. And that's when the whole thing opens up. That's what I think you're going to find with North Melbourne. I expect them to be competitive early in games while they put it in place, but they'll struggle as the games wear on.
Okay, what about GWS then under Kingsley? I mean, he's already stated, he was on this program talking about how much he believed and liked the way Richmond played. He's come out of that system. Is that, in your mind, Bucks, is that a difficult system to be teaching players?
I think we've seen a couple of clubs in the last, with the go-forward mentality. I'm not saying Geelong have done that, but they did say that they were looking at beating, Chris Scott last night said he was looking at beating the Richmond side, who was the predominant team, and with the game plan that was testing everyone, and they thought they just got that sorted, and then they faced Melbourne. But what Geelong were able to do, go forward more, trust their forwards more, and that was a big improvement. Collingwood, under Craig McRae, brought a more go forward attitude to trust their forwards more, added to the other aspects of the game, and had a big step jump forward. So I don't think we should expect anything different from GWS, whether it can be from into a top four or into a finals. I'm not sure whether they're capable of that. Potentially they are, but I think that we will see a significant change in the way GWS go about it. I think we'll see a significant uplift in the way that their players believe in it, because we've seen this program pulled into a new group of players and have effect in recent years. So why wouldn't we see it again?
Are you expecting that at Richmond, Taranto and Hopper are going to be significant players for Richmond in their midfield this season?
I think they'll play very...
Or have we overrated them?
No, I think that's a fair question. We haven't just seen enough. I mean, I think individually we see them as high quality players. I think Hopper really came on in the last 18 months. Taranto probably has had injuries and struggled through the last couple of years, even though we know his upper end is excellent. So individually, both of those players are top end talent. How do they go pulling that team together? And you can only back, Damien Hardwick and the coaches at Richmond, because they've done it time and time again with different squads over the last 5 or 6 years, and they've been able to, top the mountain when others haven't. So you'd assume that they're going to make the most out of what they've got. I don't know whether that's going to be a great team, but we'll find that out. But they've got great attributes, and those two are going to be part of it.
Who do they replace? This is an interesting part for me, right? So Kane Lambert in their best is one of those players.
Yep. And a runner.
Lambert's capacity to play his role, I think is greater than what Hopper and Taranto have been asked to do. Now, whether they can adapt to a role, if in fact they are asked to do that, remains to be seen. They're replacing an absolute bona fide, massive part of the premiership in Kane Lambert with one of these two. Let's see whether they're... jury's out for me. I know they can go and find footy.
Yeah.
I know that Taranto can find his own ball. I know he can go forward and kick goals and that sort of stuff. But the role that Lambert played, if in fact that's where they're trying to replace, that's interesting.
Lambert was a high forward that was basically helping Martin just become a forward.
That's right. Yep. Did he push up high into the midfield and work his way back? So is that role going to be replaced?
He was a transition runner, little more. He was a great player, but he's more outside and more covered for Dusty Martin than anyone they want to spit forward. Like I see Taranto and Hopper as legitimate inside hunt the ball players. Yeah, they still need to find a replacement for Lambert outside of that.
That's right. Whether that be one of those two or not, or they look to someone else.
Correct. Yeah. And I think it'll be a role. Like Lambert came in as a role player and then became far more than that for them.
Absolutely critical part of what they did.
Play a high forward, go and get 25 and kick 2 or 3 goals a week. It's pretty hard-pressed finding players that can do that for you.
Yeah, it's not a bad role to try and implement. Jonathan Brown last night had some concerns about the Tigers.
Who is the next wave?
Yeah.
So Shai Bolton's an out-and-out gun.
Two ways of looking at that, isn't there? And he alluded to it himself, is that a lot of this narrative was around Geelong at this time last year, about their older blokes and are they too old and that. So... I think Richmond are a fascinating watch. There were times last year, and I know Dylan Grimes had quite a few injuries last year, but the defence that has stood up so well that we've come to just laud is not the same defence that they've got now. So Noah Bolter's still learning the craft. He ain't Alex Rance. He is Noah Bolter, the prodigiously talented athlete that's still learning his way. I saw him get opened up a few times. Even Dylan Grimes got it. For the first time last year, I'm watching Richmond games going, one-on-one, Dylan looks a bit vulnerable. And that may have been on the back of injury and lack of preparation. But when we talk about the great Richmond sides, this is different. This is why it's such an interesting watch this year.
See, I think Cumberland can be a real player, and he works very hard in front of the ball. We know Gibcus was lightly raced, but actually came through. So he's potentially going to be a player that can come through for them this year, but they're not quite at the level that Brownie was suggesting. Obviously, Bolton can be a real player. The other Thomas Dow looked all right in the pre-season, but these are the players that they're wanting to get through. Rioli had the year of his life last year as a halfback, so he's going to continue to get better. Morris Rioli Jr. is going to do some damage up forward at ground level, and they're the players that Sonsi potentially, and a Mansell who are probably the players that are going to come in and play that Lambert role that have got the ability to get up and back, but whether they if they can come to hand real quickly, well then we'll see the best of the experienced players of Richmond because they'll be playing in a more efficient structure.
Can they be Geelong's De Conning, Stengel, Zach Guthrie? These are the players that Chris Scott said, this time last year, he said, I wish I could have sat here and gone, we're going to win a flag because these blokes will develop.
And is there somebody that's going to step up like Atkins did?
Yes,
last year.
Yeah.
Like, is there somebody there that is just waiting for the opportunity to spend a bit more time in the midfield? And then we're going to all be saying the same thing as we said about Atkins is, God, this bloke's a lot better than we thought he was.
That's good. That's a good discussion.
Not many getting around.
There is. There's one in Carlton as well.
His first year.
Through these teams before this gets underway, I'd like to get it on the record so we can revisit it. Toyota Call of the Year back, the improved Hilux Rogue White. It's all a tougher. Visit your local Toyota dealer. We'll be giving. We'll talk about Rory Laird in a minute. Hang on. The caller of the week last week was Rob from Strathmore. An excited Richmond fan says Shea Bolton set for a massive year. 5,000 Adelaide Crows supporters have rung in the last 10 minutes.
Well, 100,000 super coaches have rang in.
What happened?
He's one of the,
What's going on?
The most prevalent sort of 30% of teams he's in. So it wasn't Rory Laird that had a broken leg. It was Matt Crouch. This is how I got sucked in. I saw the headline and a photo on Twitter from Super Footy, and Rory Laird was front and centre. Matt Crouch was in the back right-hand corner of the photo.
Oh, no.
I text Scott Burns, coach at Adelaide, said, is it the tibia or is it the fibula? Is it the little one? He goes, it'll be a couple of weeks. He's thinking about Matt Crouch. I'm thinking about Rory Laird. Rory Laird is okay for super coaches out there.
No way. Hey, if you want to be
Tip for young kids.
If you want to call in too, you can win $200 worth of BCF vouchers and
Boating, camping, fishing.
That's right. Number one for outdoor Easter fun, and also 18 holes of golf for you and a mate with a cart. You get 18 holes of golf for two plus 2 drinks cart midweek for just $99. You can visit clubmanadelaide.com.au.
Pie sliding or elevating or staying the same?
I can't see them sliding. The only thing I would say about that is they won a lot of close games last year with a touch of luck.
Bucks, where have you got?
I don't think they win 15 games this year, but I still think their best is going to be very good, and they'll be a finalist.
Bottom.
Are they better? Sorry, are they a better team with their inclusions though?
We'll find out, won't we?
No, but do you think they will be?
I think McStay helps the aerial mix in the front half, which actually helps the ground level capacity because of the consistency of the aerial.
Will it be
work.
to the detriment of Mycheck though? Him being in the front?
I think it actually.
They can play well together.
Well, he's played as a key his entire career as a key back for 9 years before coming into AFL and then moved forward. But he's 6'2". He just plays big and he's a workhorse. He could play as a third tall forward. He would play as a third tall forward in a traditional structure, but he's just been exceptional. But I think he'll be better with McStay in the side.
Bombers?
Bombers for me, I can't see anything yet. Like I can't see a change in there's only been
only been a practice match.
Well, I'm about to say that. There's only been 2 games,
Well,
but
don't
in other
snap my head off.
but in other teams I've seen a change,
Righto.
but I haven't seen the change in them.
Bottom
So,
4?
I'm saying bottom 6.
Bucks?
Yeah, I've got bottom 4. I fear for Essendon. I think Brad Scott's probably realised how much work there is to do, and it's not going to be a quick fix, I don't reckon.
There are some behaviours and patterns of behaviours and established behaviours of players that are going to have to be modified and changed, and that doesn't happen quickly.
Dockers played finals last year. Were very, very competitive through the season.
I think Luke Jackson will help them. I think Sean Darcy's a gun.
What will Jackson bring in the short term
I think
that Lob hadn't provided?
Well, I don't think Lob had a really good back half of the year when Fremantle, incidentally, weren't playing great, efficient
As
team
a goal
footy.
kicker, mainly.
Yeah, yes. But I think Luke Jackson will still give a little bit going forward as well. Brayshaw, Sarong, Brody, the guys at ground level are going to benefit from having not just – so when it's not Darcy going there, if Lob went into the ruck, I still reckon he's a legitimate second ruckman. Whereas if you bring Jackson in, you're always going to have a number one ruckman that's going to be guiding that midfield and giving them some supply, aerial power, and I think that'll help them.
Will Fife be a success as a forward?
Yeah, but he's not going to be. He's not going to kick 40 or 50. I don't think. I just think he's going to win contests in the front half, and as many players as you can get in your side that do that, the better.
Cats, we all can think are contending,
Very
I would
good.
imagine. The Gold Coast Suns?
I think this is a real challenge year for them. It's a challenge
interesting
year,
isn't it?
I think if it's now or never, as far as I'm concerned, or for Stewie Joe, I reckon it's now or never. And the program that they've put together, they've got enough talent. It's just
Max
a matter of
Kingback's
finding
huge.
a way.
Max Kingback is huge.
Ben,
Yeah, and Ben.
yeah,
Ben Kingback is huge.
yeah.
I haven't got him in the 8, but
No, neither have I.
sort of knocking around. A bit like the Giants, knocking around. for
Giants,
me.
I reckon they'll be a big overs.
Big
compared
overs.
to only 6 wins last year, and I think that was massive.
They
Unders,
won-
I think they could win 10, 12.
The Suns won 10 games last year.
Yeah, I know. They were contending for. Yeah,
It was a step forward for them in their journey, wasn't it?
Yeah,
But,
they don't have to go that much more forward, though, and they find themselves in the final.
no,
So,
that's a good point. Have you got him in?
no.
No.
I haven't.
Hawks?
No, bottom 4, but I just so young, so inexperienced, and but you were talking about North Melbourne and what you think you're going to get, like early
Games.
performances and then drop away. Hawthorn, some of their best performances were actually pretty good,
Yeah.
but they couldn't very difficult to put a 4-quarter performance together. I think we're going to see that for another 12 months at least.
They're going to be a dangerous side to play against at different stages of the year, particularly, I think, early in the season, Hawthorn. I think there's a lot to like. Even the pre-season game, they got knocked off their momentum and their feet early in that game against
Collingwood.
Geelong, and they didn't really...
Oh, Geelong.
Yeah, but then the next week they played against Collingwood, and I thought
They
they
were,
were much better.
really disappointed with their Geelong performance.
Yeah, no, they were disappointing.
Yeah.
But then, young players, great team playing against first up, that type of thing. It can bang your confidence around. But they bounced back the following week against Collingwood. So they're going to be bouncy, athletic, aggressively attacking type of team to play against.
I think the Demons are all. I think we all think they're contending. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
No argument.
Yep.
No.
Kangaroos, we've spoken about a fair bit. We know where they're at. Port Adelaide are interesting.
I think they are the most fascinating watch of this season, Bucks, Port Adelaide.
I
What
agree.
part of last year do we believe in most? They got off to a horrendous start, but then there were times when I thought, they really were and should have been a top 8 side by the end of the year. They didn't make it. But then in the preseason, we're looking at what they've done so far, and you're thinking, oh, hang on a minute. It doesn't look like they've bubbled up at all in the early part.
Got Brisbane, Collingwood, Adelaide, Sydney, Western Bulldogs first 5 weeks.
And that's a tough start.
That's
a really
every
tough
game's
start.
tough, isn't it? At the minute, but it's tough for them.
And they went 0-5 in the first round,
Yeah.
5 rounds last year.
They do play Brisbane at home in the first game, though, so that gives them some advantage, you would say.
I don't think Horn Francis will come on as quickly as people think. I think he's going to be a slower burn. Butters, Rosie, great players. Houston, I think, is an underrated player if he gets the midfielder off halfback. Marshall with a full season and showed his bona fides last year. They've got plenty of attributes. It's just a matter of pulling them all together.
And a Rioli up forward as well.
Yeah, Butters and
he'll be
Rosie,
good.
it's interesting. I don't have them as great players. Rosie closer than Butters. That's where the improvement comes for me. If they can be great players, that'll help drive them in the manner that you think about the teams have won in recent. They need to go to sort of Petrarca, Oliver levels, if that's where you want them to get to.
And they actually look like they've got that elite talent to be better than just very good midfielders. I'm interested in what you say about Horn Francis, though. Are you just saying, okay, let's just pause a little bit? He's still a second-year player. It's going to take a bit longer.
Well, I just think that even handling the focus and intense scrutiny is a challenge, and it's something that very few players can handle in the early stages of their career. Very few are exposed to it in the early stages of the career. But the focus that's been on him has been blistering. So I don't think it's going to get any better. But his capacity is going to improve incrementally. But it's not going to go from 1 to 100 in one season.
Stop me because I want to get to this one particular team. Richmond, St Kilda, Sydney, and the Western Bulldogs. I would imagine we're all pretty much there. I don't think there's going to be too much argument on any of them.
Richmond are interesting.
Richmond, we've spoken about them this morning.
yes.
The Saints, with new coach and injuries, are going to be doing what they do.
Yep.
The West Coast Eagles are the one I want to have a chat with, and we've only got a couple of minutes. A 2-game season last year. I had a 2-game winning season in Melbourne. As a result of that, we were going to merge, we were going to fold, we were going to relocate, we were going to have coaches sacked. Have we let them off the hook?
Well, I would assume that they haven't been let off the hook over in Perth. You'd have to assume that it is the quietest and most the nicest 2-game season that I've ever witnessed from a big club. And West Coast are one of the biggest clubs in the competition. And it just seems like they've just moved through that and past that without any real...
But is your expectation that they will improve slightly, greatly, not at all?
Well, if you do a deep dive in their list, the top 10 look really good. And then there's a lot of guys, a lot of spots there that need to be filled, and not just with young players, but with guys that I don't recognise.
We're going to run out of time. How many wins will satisfy you from a West Coast quickly?
6.
8.
Yeah, I'd want 8 from the West Coast Eagles.